Hello, and welcome to another meeting of the Lotus Council. So what do we have today? Another Pauper deck tech. So this one is a little bit different. So it's a modification that I made of a list that was going around a while back for a Jund Treasures deck. So this one is pretty tricky to play. It is a high skill level to be able to play it. So it's very much a combo deck. So I'll run you through the deck tech and what you're trying to do and how you're trying to do it. I've been practicing with this one, and this one, when you're able to pilot it correctly, it's the 800-pound gorilla thrashing on, suitcases and destroying things. It's really a fantastic deck, and you end up drawing a massive amount of cards fairly quickly. So you have to constantly make sure you don't have more than 7 cards in your hand when you end turn. It's that good. So let's go over it. So first, off the bat, we've got some lightning bolts. We're doing Jund. We're going to have lightning bolt. It's Pauper. We're going to have lightning bolts. Staple of the format. Then we also have 2 copies of Cast Down. This is really great removal in Pauper. And it did get printed at common previously, even though these say uncommon. Basically, it's black and 1, destroy target non-legendary creature. Hint, pretty much right now, almost all creatures in Pauper are non-legendary. You got Prismatic Piper and Faceless One, I believe, are the only 2 creatures that I can think of off the top of my head that are that. Then I've got End the Festivities. So if you saw my Red Deck Wins deck tech, I do like this. And there's a reason why I specifically have this one. So it deals 1 damage to each opponent and each creature they control. Also hits planeswalkers. Not bad for 1. The way I use it in this deck is with You Are Already Dead. So for 2 mana, I can destroy any creature and hit other things too and draw a card. So for 1 black, destroy target creature that was dealt damage this turn, draw a card. Goes into my whole card draw thing, and I found that it actually can be pretty useful at getting rid of large creatures. There's a few that have the hexproof, the boggles, and the whatnot. That makes it a little bit harder to work with, but at least getting damage on there with End of Festivities is a great thing. All right. So let's talk about the actual core of the deck. So these are just the removal, a little bit of card draw, some fun there. So the deck is centered around Glimmer Bairn. If you're not familiar with this absolutely fantastically cute creature, trying to get a good picture of the art, and it is 1 green for a 1/2 creature. It's an Ophi, yeah. Sacrifice a token, it gets +2/+2 till end of turn. The strategy for the deck is to make tokens. Okay, so there's a couple of ways that we can do that. So first way, Deadly Dispute, oddly enough. So as an additional cost to cast this spell, sacrifice an artifact or creature. We're going to be making a lot of creature tokens and a lot of artifact tokens. So draw 2 cards, create a treasure token. So this is card draw, and it's a treasure token that we can feed into there. Another great one called Datha Rebirth. For 1 red and sacking a artifact, put 3 1/1 red goblin creature tokens into the battlefield. Full play set of that. Then we have Experimental Synthesizer. I'm going to do this one first because this also makes a token. So for 1 red, you get an artifact that when it enters or leaves the battlefield, it's really important, exile the top card of your library. Until end of turn, you may play that card. So you're getting card advantage there if you have the mana open to play it, and if you're making a lot of treasure tokens, among other things, and you'll see with how we're doing the lands, you're getting a lot. So for 2 and a red, you may sacrifice this to create a 2/2 White Samurai creature token with Vigilance. You activate this as a sorcery. So really good. So you might notice we need artifacts to sack and creatures to sack. So that's one of the artifacts that I can sack. There's also Chromatic Star. It filters You pay 1, tap it, and sack it. Add 1 mana of any color. When it is put in the graveyard from the battlefield, draw a card. So there has been times where I've actually filtered the same color mana that I want to spend just so I can draw the card. Then there's Icore Wellspring. So this is one of the incredibly important pieces of this deck. When it enters the battlefield, you draw a card, or when it's put in the graveyard from the battlefield, draw a card. So this is a great sack outlet for that. So you sack it. And then we also have Reckoner's Bargain. So as an additional cost, sacrifice an artifact or creature for black and 1. You gain life equal to the sacrifice permanent's mana value, draw 2 cards. So oftentimes I'm just drawing 2 cards, sacking a token. However, I have gained life off of Icore Wellspring and Experimental Synthesizer with this. So a lot of token interaction creation, sacking, you have to keep track of a lot. Well, as you might imagine, the mana base for this is not straightforward. So I have 3 copies of Great Furnace. It's an artifact. So in a pinch, late game, I can sack it for one of these other effects. 2 Vault of Whispers, and then I've got the bounce lands. So Golgari Rot Farm. It does enter tap. You have to return a land to the hand, but you do get Golgari, or Gruul, or Rakdos. And so I have 2 copies of each. Now, these bounce lands are incredibly important because of what they feed and how they interact. So Kalani Garden is the land that people don't expect to be absolutely fantastic, and it's one of the key pieces to this deck. You cannot get this to run without Kalani Garden. Enters the battlefield tapped. It's going to tap for a green, but when it does, you make an 0/1 green plant creature token, Glimmer Baron. So often I'll play this and then I'll bounce it. I'll play it and then I'll bounce it. I'll play it and I bounce it. I'm making lots and lots of plant tokens because I need the sack for Glimmer Baron for my other sacrifice outlets. It does have a few basics, so it's got a forest, it's got mountains, and it's got swamps. Not many. So pretty tight mana base with the treasures that I make and the card draw. This thing, I'm routinely drawing quite a bit of cards per turn. It's incredibly good. Incredibly, incredibly good. So let's talk about the sideboard real quick. This is the one area that I'm not as happy with and I want to change a little bit. I'm likely going to slot in some Pyroblast or Red Elemental Blast depending on the situation. I've got to decide which one I want to include. But the first thing I have is the Bojuka Bog. So it enters tapped. When it enters the battlefield, exile all cards from target player's graveyard. It's tapping for a black. So I'll basically slot out a swamp for this if I'm doing it. Incredibly good card with the bounce lands. Remember those. Those dual color bounce lands, really, really love this. And there is a fair amount of Delve. Gourmet Angler is one of the big cards in here. There's some other Delve cards. Getting rid of graveyards is important sometimes. And so it's not in the main board for that reason, but I do it a lot. I've got 4 copies of Duress. I do have 2 Pyroblasts in here. The Duress I'm not sure about. Just honestly, they reveal their hand. You choose a non-creature, non-land card from it. Discard it. They discard that card. 2 Pyroblasts, so it's counter target spell if it's blue. Destroy target permanent if it's blue. Costs 1 red. Pretty good card. I've got Bone Shards. So sack a creature or discard a card, and you destroy target creature or planeswalker. Pretty decent. I've got 2 more of You Are Already Dead. That would be one with the Bojuka Bog that I sometimes will slot in. Then I've got Tamiyo Safekeeping. Target permanent you control gains hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. You gain 2 life. Really good card. I also like Snakeskin Veil. Similar thing, but you don't get the life gain. I haven't had a chance to slot that one in. Like I said, basically the biggest one that I've slotted is Bojuka Bog. And so I'm going back and forth on whether or not I should include Bojuka Bog and just take a swamp out and put something else in my sideboard. I haven't come across enough heavy blue to need more red elemental blasts. I'm thinking I might put that in for the duress, move Bajuka Bog to the main board, and put in another Pyroblast. So that is the sideboard. And of course, there are a lot of tokens. So I got Samurai, Samurai Treasure, Goblin. I made a little janky plant token. I don't know why I got a slug token in there. treasure, Goblin, Treasure, Goblin. So, making a lot of goblins, making a lot of treasures, occasionally making a samurai, making a lot of plants. I got to make some more plant tokens. I don't know why I have the slug insect in there. I think I just grabbed a handful of tokens and was running it. So, anyway, this is my Jund sacrifice deck that's based around treasures and sacking creatures. I don't know what the name for this archetype would be. Maybe Jund Glimmerbairn or Jund Token. I don't know, but it takes a lot of practice to get good at this deck. But once you get it down and you're able to pilot it consistently, you can do phenomenal with it. And it is really hard for opponents to deal with because it's just, you would think it would be slower paced with all the tap lands, but by turn 3 or 4, you're hitting a critical mass with the deck, and you just absolutely overrun your opponent. So this deck, I've got it near optimized to where I want it. Again, someone might put in the Electro Trickery. I actually like the End of Festivities in this deck in conjunction with the You Are Already Dead, because I'm pinging them, I'm pinging all their creatures, marking damage on them, and so they think twice when I swing with Glimmer Baron and I got a whole bunch of goblins. Because the goblins go from 1 to 2 damage that they're doing if they don't block the Glimmer Baron. But then if they don't block the Glimmer Baron, I could just pump it anyway. Lots of fun stuff that I do. And I like to have a lot of plant tokens in reserve for the Glimmer Baron specifically for that reason, because I don't need to attack with it. I can just have it there. So it is incredibly fun to run. And so, yeah. Well, hopefully you enjoyed that deck tech. There's similar deck lists that people have online. This is my own version of that. Really, the You Are Already Dead and the Festivities is my big contribution there. People will do some other things to generate tokens and stuff. I would rather do board sweeping with pinging damage and then selectively destroying major threats. But I absolutely love this. Like, when I played it recently, I went like 8-2 with it, with the deck. So it was, yeah, it definitely was a big beast with a lot of pretty high-powered Pauper decks. So anyway, hopefully you enjoyed the deck. Check out the deck lists below. If you're on the lookout for cards, go check out our friends over at Geekified. You can find them at geekifiedoiowa.com. And if you're wanting to know when we have our next video, go ahead and subscribe, hit that bell notification, and join us in the Discord, which you should do because you can come talk Pauper with me, or, you know, you can play Commander games with people. We do auctions, we do box breaks, where we try to have it be cheaper than what you can find online for packs. So pretty good prices for the packs. And yeah, it's really a great thing. You should join the community. We got a lot of people that are active. We could always use more active voices. If you're looking for a nice, friendly environment, you should check us out. So we want to thank you again for spending time with us. And we hope to see you at our next video. So thanks again, and our meeting is now adjourned, but we hope you have an absolutely fantastic day.